Well, John, first of all, thank you ever so much for sparing us a little bit of time on having a guest. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, all good. Weather's good, so can't grumble.
Yeah, because we're getting to that time of the year when you're looking, checking the weather forecast and the wind and the rain and all the rest of it. It's got to make a bit of difference.
Yeah, it's coming. It does, and it makes a difference to the sessions and how you prepare for them, how you order your sessions, and make sure that you're not going from a high intensity session to a standing still kind of thing, practice more technical. So yeah, we've got to be aware of it. But yeah, we keep them moving, so they're never going to be cold.
Yeah, which is good to hear. And just from you, because you'll have been used to it in your playing career a little bit, but moving to a new area, settling in, all that kind of stuff, it does take time. Are you starting to feel like Bristol's home again?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like you say, home again. Yeah, I've been here previously playing, so yeah, getting used to the area again, albeit more the north side, which I've not been around as much. So yeah, getting used to it, but just getting around the lads, and most of my time, I'll be honest, is spent here at the training ground or sleeping. So there's not much socialising going on. It's all work, and that's because of the busy schedule, because like you say, a new club, there's so many things to put in place after obviously the turnaround over the summer, both staff and players. So there's been a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, I'm really enjoying it.
So does that make it, I'm sure it's made it hectic in a lot of ways in that everybody's got a lot to learn, but is that almost being busy like that is a good thing rather than having a sort of a routine where everybody's sort of more comfortable, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. There's a bit of both. I think 8 games in the first month is crazy, so I'm not going to lie, that could have been made a little bit easier for us when there's still a lot of principles and a lot of things that you're trying to build as a group. But in terms of being busy, that's great because most of my family are still up in Huddersfield, so I don't get the guilt of working till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night at the training ground. I can just get on with my work and I can really fully commit to it. So for me personally, actually, being away from home has actually helped because I haven't got to split myself between family and work. I can just be work. Yeah. So in that respect, it's actually been easier for me. So I've been able to knuckle down and obviously get to know all the players and the staff and make sure we're putting the right processes in place.
And I think every player I've ever spoken to who's turned to coaching or managing or whatever else talks about the difference in the working day. But I still think that the prejudice, the sort of the expectation from outside is that you turn up, you run around for a couple of hours and you go home, so you're playing golf all afternoon, and the reality is it's a fair bit different from that.
Yeah, I wish somebody had told me that. I might have tried to play for a few more years at the end of my career. Yeah, it's full on. But I think, joking aside, I think I was aware of, for me to commit to coaching 100% and be the coach that I want to be, I didn't want to kind of go into that player coach role. I was quite certain that once I knew I wanted to progress in the coaching side of things, then my playing career would have to stop. So I was quite abrupt with that, and I knew that was going to be the case for me, because like you say, the work that goes on behind the scenes as a coach, I think a lot of times as a player, and certainly through my career as a player, you don't really see it. So you're turning up to training, you're not really thinking about the session. It's just quite like, well, this has been put on for us, and you don't really understand the real detail around it and the reasons why. What we try and do here now, and it was coming in towards the end of my playing career, is we give them the reasons why we're doing things. We have meetings, we have unit meetings, individual clips, the IDPs, the framework of the training plan, the plan moving into the weekend is set out earlier on in the week. So we're giving them as much information as we can without frying them, because sometimes there can be too much. So it's simple, clear messages that hopefully through the weeks and weeks we can start building on that. And I think at times we're seeing that now in some of the performances.
But that kind of gives players ownership, doesn't it? Because I would guess certainly at the start of your career, it's like, do it this way, and that's how it's going to be. And maybe you don't always understand that. It must be a better way if you would at least try and get why it is you're doing something and what you're hoping to get out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it has to be a bit more collaborative, where we're working with the players and having discussions quite, on a regular basis around what we're doing and why we're doing it. Input from them, not always taken, but input so that we can have the discussions that prompt the learning as a group, and us as a staff, because we're still learning about the players. It's not just the players that are learning every day. We've still got things to learn. We're still trying to improve as a group of staff. So I think that kind of approach where we can have those conversations and really get to the detail of why we're doing something and what's going to help us as a group, both players and staff, then those conversations need to happen, and they happen in the classroom, they happen on the training ground, while you're having breakfast, while you're having lunch, while you're in the gym. So those things are happening all the time, and that's what builds, as everybody says, about this environment and the culture and all these buzzwords, that you just want you want a place where people want to come and work and they want to learn and they want to get better. If you get that, you normally when you end up with the things that we're speaking about in terms of the right culture and the right environment to be professional and win.
So I don't think there is such a thing as an average day at any football club, but can you give us an idea of what a day would look like in a rough capacity?
In terms of what
just
a day
like
here
for you
looks
from
like,
when you start, even from when you get here to when you leave, and the kind of things that you're doing whilst you're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so coaches will arrive to the training ground anytime from sort of 6:30 till 7:15. So we get to the training ground. We obviously, some will have a shower, some will do a quick blast in the gym, try and get a bit of work in before the madness. And then we're in. So we're working on things that we're doing in the session. So we'll have a meeting with all the medical staff. We'll look at numbers. We'll have planned the session the previous day. So it's just tidying up those little bits. If somebody's not right or somebody might not be doing the full session, we have to readjust and make sure that everything's clear. We'll typically have a meeting with the players, so whether that's myself delivering an in-possession meeting or any set-piece information, we'll give that. Reece would do the out-of-possession. The gaffer would touch on everything else, so like the group, all the bits that he pulls together, and he has the right conversations with people here and there, and then he'll deliver the main bulk of it. We'll go and set up training, we'll come back in, we'll have a little bit more time with the players individually, might do a couple of clips with them or things that we want to see from training. We'll go out, we'll set up, we'll get everything ready, we'll have a full session, we'll tidy everything up, make sure everything's nice and neat and tidy. We're a bit, we've got a cabin over there with all the equipment in, so we have to make sure that's all nice and clean and tidy. We get the goals off the pitch so that the ground staff can get to work on the fields. We come in, we normally have a quick bit of lunch, and then we'll go through the session. So we'll watch the session back, we'll clip any bits that we want to do. At that time, we're normally doing some individual or unit meetings with the players, so things from the previous weekend, things about the opposition that's coming up. We'll have another meeting then, probably myself, Reece and the gaffer, we'll go into some finer details of how we're going to build, how we're going to go against the ball, how we're going to press. After that, I'll go through all the set pieces. So I'll look at all the attacking set pieces, all the defensive set pieces, start putting that together in terms of a meeting so that the players can see all that sort of stuff, prepping for the weekend ahead. Then we'll touch on the next day's session. So what do we need to see from the next session? Then we'll look at the data from the previous session. So what has the physical output been? Is that in line with our periodisation? What else to do then? Like today we've got a data meeting. So today we've got straight after this we've got a data review over the previous games that we've had so far this season. So we'll have a few data review for a couple of hours. So fitting things in like that, little bits of interviews. The manager he's constantly on the phone. He's doing interviews. He's getting pulled from pillar to post. So that's mine and Reece's job, is to try and take away as much as that from him as can. So he's got time to deal with it.
And I genuinely think most fans will understand that there is a lot of work that goes into trying to get a team to do well between 3 and 5 on a Saturday afternoon or whenever it is. But I think quite a few of them will listen to that and think, oh, that's how much work and all the little details that go into trying to get that performance from maybe it's just one or two players that you're looking to work on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. Because look, we want to provide the best environment for every individual now. Yes, sometimes you have to prioritise where your attention is, because there's things that need more immediate attention. Some things are kind of bubbling in the background where you can kind of touch on them and have little bits of individual sessions and stuff. I had Fabrizio and Ollie Dewsbury on their own on Thursday just for a little bit of finishing, like just little things where you can start like really ticking off those boxes. Even today, we had a couple of lads just delivering the corners and 4 players just getting the timings on the run. So that's just a 10-minute block at the end of the session. So everything that we do is trying to give them everything that they need to succeed. You don't get everything. You can't be everywhere at once. So there's things that you miss. So then you review the week and say, right, what do I need to pick up on early next week to make sure it doesn't go too long till you've dealt with that. And then the analysts do a fantastic job because they watch a lot of the opposition. They give us the information so that we don't have to go and find it. Can I have like I get a pack that's sent from Lewis, the analyst, which is every goal kick from the last 5 games, every corner, every throw in, every set piece possible, all the times that they've pressed, how do they press high up the pitch, what's the mid block like, what's the shape out of possession. So we're always looking at every way we can be better. But so's everybody, or I hope they are anyway. Otherwise, I won't. I mean, but we love it. We love it, and it's what we're drilled to do. And I've worked with Darrell before, so I know exactly what he expects from me. I know where I need to help him and give him guidance and give him the information that he needs to make the right decisions. And that's our role as a staff, and we all do that.
And you're talking there at the start about going with Fabrizio and doing some shooting practice as a former striker yourself, and you know, Ollie as well as a really promising young player. Do you try and not stay away from that, because you know players get pigeonholed into being, you know, you're there to try and help the team score goals, but your job is actually a lot wider ranging than that, isn't it? Or can you lean into all those experiences you had over the, you know, a long and distinguished playing career?
Oh, I massively lean on it, massively. I think that has to be one of my strengths. I've played 700 games over 20 years at the top level. Like, if I'm not giving that information, then I'm not doing my job. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to become a coach. So yes, sometimes, yeah, they're a bit like, oh, you're doing a bit with your son. Like, you know, it's one of them sometimes with Ollie, for instance. The lads will joke about that. But I love spending time with them, and then even the defenders. So I give them a striker's perspective. So I can speak to the defenders and think, right, if you're coming up against a big striker, this is what they like to do. This is how they like to take the ball. These are the things that they'll draw you into. Same with the goalkeepers. If I'm in this area, I'm looking to do this. If you come at me in a certain way, that gives me another idea. So right now I'd do this. So it gives them, so I can use that in any capacity. If I'm working with the wing backs or wide players, I can think, well, if you see me making this run, you know where you need to deliver the ball. If you're shaping your body in a certain way, that's going to give me a picture that I need to hit the front. So there's so many different ways that I was a striker, but I can use that for so many different areas of the pitch, because it's just always a little bit of a balancing act. So yeah, the individual stuff's key, because I think that, like I say, that has to be, because that's the things that I was good at. That's what my career's been. So for me to not share that and not use that, not only to my advantage but to the club's advantage, is me not doing my job.
Yeah. And how have you found that transition in terms of some really good players have found it difficult to get their ideas over to other people because maybe they can't do it, maybe they think differently, all the rest of it. Have you found that sort of the teaching side of it easy, or has that come hard? Or
not easy. I've always been confident speaking, and I think I've always been able to put my point across. I think it certainly for me is the more time you're on the grass, the better you get at it, and it really is that case for me. I'm sure we'll speak about, but going out to the States and kind of being in an environment where you can learn a little bit and you can make a few mistakes and stuff was certainly what I needed to do, because I wanted to be in a place when I came into the English professional environment that I wanted to be good at what I did. Yeah. And there's no shortcuts. I think that's the big thing for me. I spent a long time through Huddersfield, the old Division 3, to get to the top, to where I wanted to be, and I didn't want to be a coach that just gets handed an opportunity because I played for 20 years. I want to be a good coach, and that was important for me.
So you mentioned Huddersfield, so let's take you back to West Yorkshire, and a fresh-faced teenager making your debut there. Even before that, was it always football? Were you a football mad kid?
No, not really. Not up until I didn't play football till sort of under 10s, under 11s. Okay. I was a swimmer before that, so I swam for the squads, swam every morning before school. Family circumstances, parents split up, and then my stepdad was a massive Huddersfield fan, but a massive football fan. Yeah. So he was watching me swimming, thinking, this isn't for me, this sitting on the side of a pool for 2 hours at 6 o'clock in the morning. He's like, does he not like football or something, you know? So kind of just edged me into football. I played a little bit for school, and then played Sunday League at under 11s, under 12s, and then from then went straight into the Huddersfield Academy setup, and kind of obviously swimming fizzled out, and that took over. So yeah, I was probably late into it, really, compared to a lot now. You see the kids now in academies at 8 and 9 years old. That wasn't for me. I was totally away from it, and then came in later on. So
that's probably not a bad thing, and it's just life's full of these sort of sliding doors moments, aren't they, where things could go one way, or, you know, I'd imagine pretty happy with the decisions you've made in terms of where you are at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've had a fantastic working career and personal life, so it's definitely been the right decision. But like you say, you never know what's around the corner. I think for everybody that's the case. You know, you never know which way something's going to go. So yeah, just see what happens.
And in terms of playing career, I guess once you found football, and say your stepdad's a big Huddersfield fan, making your debut for your hometown club, and I think one of your first, it might have been your first or second season. I know you left halfway through, but helped the team get promoted, and that's, you know, that's boys' own stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing. Like we'd ball boy, it was the old centre of excellence then, even before academies started. But I was showing my age a bit. So I'd ball boy at the matches, and then I'd be sit ball boying and watching Big Andy Booth up front for Huddersfield, and then 5 or 6 years later, I'm playing alongside him. So it was just a real magical time. It was tough. So my first season we got relegated. We went through administration. But it was a real sort of welcome to football as me as an 18, 19-year-old. So it was tough. But then the following season, started the season really well. Ended up jumping to Blackburn in the Premier League, and then subsequently Huddersfield got promoted at the playoffs against Mansfield at Cardiff. So penalties.
Yeah, and you quite early had that sort of success in getting yourself into the Premier League. A lot of work had to happen to get you there. But how did you find that transition? Because a lot of teenagers do struggle a little bit when they get into men's football, but it didn't seem to be the case for you.
No, do you know what? And it's hard, sometimes I get asked this question a lot, and it's quite hard to think back and actually really recognise how I felt about everything at that time. I think it all happened so quick. Like, I was on the bus, I think, coming back. I might have been coming back from Cambridge, I think. Huddersfield, I'd scored a penalty, I think. And as I was getting off the bus, Peter Jackson pulled me and just said, "Oh, we've accepted a bid from Blackburn. We want you're going over there tomorrow," because Blackburn were playing Chelsea on the Sunday. So I went over to Ewood Park, and on Sunday afternoon after the game, I'm in a stairwell meeting Graham Souness and sort of saying, he said to me, "Do you think you can handle that then, son?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I can." Yeah, of course I can. Yeah. The following Saturday, I'm starting in the Premier League and scoring the winner at Middlesbrough, and keeping Andy Cole and Dwight York out of the team. So I was just like, it all happened so fast. I don't think I even had a moment to process it. And probably looking back, and I've had discussions with my wife and stuff about this. Then the following season, it slowed down a little bit, and then going to Sunderland, which was a huge club, a big fee, and I know in this city football's massive, but when you go to the northeast, it is bonkers. So I think that was the moment when probably everything caught up with me, and it was like, oh, now I feel the pressure. Now you feel the weight of everything, and it was a difficult time for me.
Yeah, and that is probably part of the growing thing, and it'll happen with coaches as well, in terms of you've got to go through these experiences to kind of learn from them, and hopefully you come out the other side as a better, stronger person for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. It was a very tough period for me, and then I managed to squeeze myself out of that. Went to Sheffield United and had a really good back end to the season, back in the Premier League. And that kind of set me on my way again, and I'd kind of navigated that difficult bit and felt like back to normal again. And then the rest of my career was good. I enjoyed it. Didn't have any real spells where I was in real, bad form or anything. I just kind of just weathered the way and managed to stay injury free for the most of it. So I think certainly transferring that into your coaching career, there was times at Barnsley where we had really tough periods where you start this season, you're thinking we've done all this work, everything feels like it should be right, but you're not getting the results. So suddenly there's everything coming from everywhere, but we're just like, no, this is the process that we've put in place from the first day we got here, first day of pre-season. Let that process continue because we trust in the work that we're doing. And I think going through those experiences helps you have your own trust and belief in your own work that this is the right thing that we're doing. We just need to let it play its course.
And that trust is you mentioned it earlier at the start, and you should be rightly proud. I think it's 704 appearances in senior Premier. Have I got that right?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
And 165 goals. I mean, those are figures that not many people will replicate over a career, no matter what level they're playing at. I mean, you've got to look back at that and be rightly very proud of a great career.
Yeah, I am proud of it, and I think I maximised what I had in terms of talent. I think my work rate and everything was always something that set me apart from maybe some others that fall by the wayside. But I think having that longevity in football gives you a lot. It gives you a lot in terms of resilience, which is a big thing that the gaffer's massive on, and that we're instilling into the players, that you get kicked and battered and bruised from every angle for 20 years. Like, that's what I've had. Like, you just get battered from everybody for 20 years. But it's what I'm used to. I can bat that off all day long, and it's the same as in your coaching career. And I think sometimes it'll help because I've been through that as a player, where everything is directed at you. You're not doing this. You're not doing that. And it's going to come as a coach as well. Of course it is. It's the nature of the beast. It's the industry that we're in. So yeah, having those experiences will definitely help, and I think they'll help me understand as well that there can't be too many highs, there can't be too many lows. Just stick to your processes and hope for a bit of luck.
Yeah. Well, that as often as anything is very important, isn't it? So, your sort of final playing days were at Harrogate up in Yorkshire. Did you know when you were sort of coming to the end that this was a route that you wanted to take, or were you sort of open to all the different things that are out there for you to do once you finish, you hang out your boots?
Yeah, no, I wanted to coach. I think I certainly wanted to coach. I still see, even now, I think I've got aspirations to be a head coach at some point, but I still see my skill set being quite specific to an assistant, just because of the way I can blend my playing career with the dressing room. You've got a bit more of a hands-on approach with them. I'm never really the bad guy, so I'm always the encourager. I'm always the one that's helping them and putting around when I don't have to have those tough conversations with either the players or board or anybody else. So I quite like that environment that I'm in, because it allows me then to work on the grass. It allows me to hone my skills as a coach rather than dealing with everything else that comes with being a manager. So it's certainly somewhere that I want to get to. But like I said earlier in the piece, I don't want to rush to that stage, because I think when I get to it, I want to be ready for it and I want to be good at it.
Because realistically, you may only get one really good opportunity to do it,
and
you've got to grasp it.
Yeah, your first one's so important. So when it gets to that point, I want to be confident that I'm going to be the best version of me when that moment comes. So that could happen whenever, I don't know, but that's the process behind it. So I think I always knew I wanted to be that. I knew I didn't want to be a player coach, because I'd got some inklings that the stuff that I'd have to do would be too much to focus on playing as well. So I decided to go to the States. So I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to start at the bottom. I wanted somewhere where it's a little bit more forgiving, where you can be in a different environment. I didn't want the same weekly routine. I didn't want the same, I'll be honest, I didn't want the same people. I didn't want to bump into every player I've played against, every coach that I've worked with, because there's been a lot, as you know, there's been a few clubs. So I wanted something fresh. I wanted people to see me for me, and me have to earn their respect, because they might see a bit on Wikipedia, but they don't know what I've done in the game really in the US. So I wanted to go and navigate that and show you, well, look, this is me as a coach. Like, am I good enough or not? Yeah. So that's why I went. And
as an environment, so you were at Stanford up in Connecticut, and then at Tampa Bay, so two very different sort of geographical areas of the States. But compared to EFL football or Premier League football in this country, what are the differences dealing with largely, I guess, American players compared to mostly English ones?
Yeah, very different. So in terms of the clubs themselves, there's quite a difference between the best player and the worst player, if you look at it like that. So there's quite a broad spectrum in terms of quality. It's really hard to place what that level is in terms of the USL Championship, which I was at. I think you've got players that could play in League One, and then you've got players that would be National League. So I think you've got kind of that spectrum probably as a broad figure. So it was very interesting. Everything is quite in its infancy, so a lot of people that are working for the clubs don't really get the culture that we're accustomed to. So there's a lot of education with that. You have to kind of spell out actually what does an elite environment look like in terms of football. So we'd have a lot of discussions around that. My first job, like I said, was at Hartford, and Harry Watling was the head coach. Now Harry is assistant now at Middlesbrough, but he'd had 25 years, very young coach, but had 20 years on the grass coaching youth level, I think Millwall, West Ham, Chelsea I think as well. So it was perfect. So I knew what a dressing room looked like. I knew what an elite environment should like, and he knew the grass. So that was perfect. So that's why I contacted him and said, look, I think we can work together here. I think there's things I want to learn from you, and I think there's things that I can help you with. So it was a perfect mix. So we go and do that. The players were fantastic. They want to be in every day. You know, like in the UK, it's like, if you don't give a player a Wednesday and a Sunday off, they're gonna kick off. Well, there they want to be in every day and they want to learn, and it's yes sir, and they're a dream. They're a coach's dream. They don't see football as their way out. That their football isn't their be all and end all. The degree is important because they're all educated and they've got degrees, and they come to us a little bit older. So they come to us 21, 22, where they've done the bulk of their education. So they're actually coming to play football in the USL, and they'd probably get 3 times if they'd have actually done a normal job with the degree that they've got. So then you straight away there you get a little bit where, look, they're doing this because they love it and they want this. So it was great to coach. So for me, again, talk about all the individual stuff and the unit stuff and kind of working with different players and little groups and honing my skills. Perfect environment for me.
And then when you'd had a sort of couple of years over there, was it a point you thought, I'm ready to try and come back and end up at Barnsley? Or in football, quite often things just happen and you've got to kind of ride the wave a little bit.
Yeah, it was more that. I think I only ended up, I was out there for less than 3 years, so I think it was only two years really. Obviously I was at Hartford, came back for a few months and then went back to Tampa and had 18 months there. So I came back quicker than I was expecting to. I thought it'd be 5-10 years maybe in the US, and then like if something came up, I'd probably be towards that head coach stage, and then maybe something would come up. And then working with Neill Collins, when he got the Barnsley job, and you know, one morning before training, he just pulled me outside the office and just said, by the way, I think I'm going to get the Barnsley job. I was like, oh, brilliant. He's like, well, you're going to come with me? And I was like, yeah, all right. So it was literally as quick as that. Obviously my wife and kids are at school in Huddersfield, so it was literally, I'd gone from there and then ended up coming back. Of any club in the country, it was Barnsley, which was the closest to my front door. So I don't think there was a moment where I could have said no, to be honest.
Yeah, you'd been in trouble with the missus then,
I'd have
wouldn't
been
you?
in trouble, yeah. But no, it was a fantastic opportunity, and yes, I felt ready to go and deal with that scenario, but it certainly wouldn't be something that I could have turned down. So yeah, and it sent me on that path, and I think it's given me a hell of a lot of learning. 2 years at Barnsley was a real roller coaster of lots of things that, again, I'd been in the States, so I'd not seen some of the intricacies behind the scenes at an English football club and a big club as well, like Barnsley. So it was great to get that kind of spell of learning. And then now, obviously, following Darrell down here, I think I'm starting again to work on a few other things, a little bit more involved in recruitment, and you kind of see some of the other pieces that maybe I didn't see at Barnsley. So it's been perfect in terms of my development.
Yeah, and it all adds up, doesn't it? So with Darrell, obviously Rovers fans have known him and loved him for sort of years. What's he like to work with from an assistant's point of view?
Chaos. No, I'm only kidding. No, he's not. He's 100 mile an hour. He's the most passionate man I've ever met about his work, about the clubs that he works for. He gives, the best thing for me is he gives me the freedom to express what I think we should do in training, what I think the week should look like. Not always going to say, yeah, we're doing that, but he gives me the platform to say, look, what about this, what about that, which is what I need. I need somebody. I don't want to be just picking up bibs every day and laying cones out. I want to do it all. I want to do as much as I can. So he's guiding me with that. And if you look at his history, nearly every assistant that he's worked with has gone on to be a head coach and be successful. And that's because, look, I don't need to tell you that. That's because the way he is with people, the way he is with his staff, the way he is with his players. So it's perfect. He goes off on different angles sometimes, and you've got to hang on. You've got to cling on and keep up with him. But it's the excitement. He brings excitement to the day every day, and everybody that walks in that room, I'm sure you guys will say, everybody that walks in that room, he knows who you are. He's going to have a bit of crack with you, and you're going to have to be on your toes.
Yeah, because you know you're in trouble.
Yeah,
I learned that pretty early.
Exactly. So, and listen, that's the environment that I want to be in.
Yeah, and so that I think is fun for everybody else. And actually, you know, the fact that you, and I'm sure it's exactly the same with Reece as an assistant as well, he gives you the opportunity to have your say, and you're as big a part of it as anyone. That's something he has always done, and that's how you get the best ideas. I think one person generally doesn't know everything. You got to chuck it all in there and hope that you get that perfect mix.
Yeah, absolutely, and that runs across the board. That comes from medical staff. It comes from the analysts. It comes from us as assistant coaches from bits, and then it comes from the manager. We get all that together, and then that conversation could spin round for a couple of hours, and then suddenly we come out of it thinking, yeah, that's the way to go, this, and this. And then we know we've got complete clarity in what our work needs to look like, what our meetings need to look like, how, because we'll present to the lads, so I'll present all the in-possession stuff with all the videos and everything and all the set pieces. Reece will do the out-possession. So once we get that clarity and that kind of green light, there's the tick, like Gaffer's like, yep, I'm happy, let's go. We get to work, and that's why it's such a great environment to be in.
And just finally, because it is still early days, we're only a few weeks, couple of months into the season, but we talked about the tough start, but it's been a lot better last sort of 5-6 weeks, whatever. Are you happy where you are in terms of, are you seeing the kind of things that you're obviously working on the training ground being put out there on the pitch, and the progressions that hopefully will get you where you want to go?
Yeah, we're certainly getting it. We're seeing moments, and I think I've said this a couple of weeks ago. We are seeing moments. I'm not happy because we're nowhere near where I'd like us to be. We probably won't ever get to where I'd like us to be, but you're always kind of chasing that. But even like, as an example, the goal that we scored at Colchester. So all week we were speaking about, obviously we were playing a diamond, and we were speaking about, we call it a weak side 8. So the 8 that's away from the ball, there was a real pocket because their 2 6s and the 10 always come over to the ball. So we worked all week, showed them clips, did it in training about finding that weak side 8, and then Gaff calls it a slip and slide. So can we slip our strikers in? Can we get our fullbacks nice and wide? And then you look at the goal, our defensive shape was brilliant. We crunched the pitch, they play forward, we land on a second, goes to Josh. He plays straight into the weak side 8, Alfie Chang. He opens up, slips straight down the side for Fabrizio, and he scores a goal. So when that happens, in the moment, I'm like, as a staff, we're like, brilliant. That's exactly what we envisaged to happen, and it's given us a goal. So there's been 1 or 2 moments like that in most games. Even going back to Harrogate, the first game, we had a real clear picture of, we weren't sure what we were yet as a group. So what can we focus on? We can focus on set pieces. We can make sure that we're a real threat from set pieces, whether it's in our own 5 yards or in the final third. We should win the game by a set piece. Like, we absolutely battered them on set pieces. But then as the weeks go through, then you start to shift. Well, now we're learning a bit more about our players. Now we're getting to a point where we can trust some of the in-possession stuff a bit more. So right, let's tailor that and let's adjust it so that it's not just home fit and set pieces. We still do the same amount of detail, but we mix it and blend it. So it's always going to be fluid. There's always going to be moments where we think, we need to like raise this side a bit and just bring that bit down, because it's like a Rubik's Cube. You move one player into another position and something else looks off, and it's like, you're always trying to solve the puzzle. But again, that's what keeps us busy.
Yeah. And that is what you do most of the other week. Well, John, I genuinely found it absolutely fascinating. It's lovely to sort of go back through a fantastic career, and hopefully just as exciting times to come at Rovers. But thank you for your time, and good luck at the weekend.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Cheers.